about design and how it was initially used as an ideological tool for propaganda. We were wondering how did design got its origin in bringing new ideas into the world in the beginning of this century?
The whole general background idea of design was to make mass-produced quality products available for not just the happy few, but the masses. So there is this inherent democratic idea behind design. Mm-hmm. It was developed in the environment of social, of groups of people with a social engagement, with an idea to bring prosperity and the means of production to the people. So these two went in common. The development of industry, mass industry, the whole idea of industrial production was, at least in the beginning, or let's say for a while around the turn of the previous century, closely connected with this idea that we can make a better world and provide an enormous range of people with quality goods.
Yeah. How do you see it in today's society of design?
If design still has
does it still have this ideological notion? Do you see that there are still these movements going on, or are we now, in a period where it's more two different worlds actually?
In a sense, you could say that design today is much more connected to almost the other side. Design since the 1950s has become connected to commercialism, to advertising, to capitalism, etc. Of course, it always has been. But maybe you could say that capitalism has changed. However you see it, I think if you'd have to say, to connect design to one ideology now, it would be consumerism, which I consider is an ideology. Because design is intimately connected to things that require morals. What is this product for? Do we need it? If we need it, how cheap or expensive do we want to make it? How accessible do we want to make it? If we want to make it for the mass market, how much do we care in that mass production about materials or energy use, or etc., etc. These are, just from the top of my head, 5 questions which are deeply moral or ethical, and you could multiply that by 100 if you zoom in on details. So everything a designer does, or a producer, by the way, or a consumer, by the way, is connected to ethical questions and moral judgments. So it's an integral part of the whole profession of design, or it should be. Yeah. Like I said, the obvious reason is that the obvious reason why they're so popular with designers is that their designers can be their own clients, which means that they can be quite precise about not just the brief behind the product, but also in the radicality in which they approach it. So these kind of self-initiated projects often are the laboratory for design. They lead to radical new inventions or forms, or that maybe are not directly applicable in the market, but they do help to boost thinking of what design is about, and to develop new visual languages, etc. I think that is one of the great values of a self-initiated project. Of course, so the criticism behind your question is, so why can't they do those kind of radical innovative and interesting things within the industry itself.
Yeah, or it's this. At the same time, it's kind of as if they are ashamed of the fact that they're actually earning their money with something else, which leads to this kind of schizophrenic. Yeah. But and this is maybe it makes us wonder why this is, and also what it means that you are kind of doing a job you actually think it's not that good anyway. So you in the night hours you do your own stuff.
There is a kind of schizophrenic situation in that the wish for innovation from the point of view of a designer is radically, almost diametrically opposed to the wish for innovation of many producers, especially producers in the mass market. The designer is bored with the solution that he's come up with before and wants to find something new. And even if he tackles the same problem, like making a poster or making a cup or a chair, he wants to tackle that familiar problem in unfamiliar ways. He wants to find new ways of dealing with that problem. The industry, on the other hand, they used to do that. They used to help designers to do that. Today, in my view, the industry interprets innovation in a radically different way. For the industry, innovation today means something that sells as well as the thing that we know.
Yeah.
Because production is all about sales, about market share, etc., etc. So the main gauging point then becomes to look at things that sell or that have proved to sell.
If to look at designer and public and society community, let's say, there can be interesting collaboration between them directly, not through the industry. I think I refer now to this amateur movement, the self-made movement.
Yeah, but that sort of cancels out the industry.
Yeah, exactly.
If you refer to that, let's say, do-it-yourself kind of culture that is really growing now, that is a culture where people who are dissatisfied with the products that the industry and the market offers them take things in their own hand and start producing themselves. And of course, designers can help there in a very important way by not necessarily designing the products, but guiding the do-it-yourselfer in making things slightly better or slightly less clumsy as the amateur would do themselves. And technology helps them do that. You have open source designs that can be printed out in your home, a 3D printer which you can buy at less than $1,000 these days. So if you want the construction of your design to be executed by amateurs, you need to think that structure in different terms than if you would hand it over to a professional producer or to a factory or to a mold maker, or to a printer, whatever. So designers have to step back in a sense, not in the sense of becoming more modest, although I wouldn't mind that, but a step back in the process to focus on the means of production more than the result of that production.
And do you think they're already doing that?
Yeah, many are doing that. They're forced not only by the do-it-yourself movement, they're also forced by other social and economic factors, like, for instance, the sustainability question, the question of how to use materials and energy, etc., etc. Very often these things force designers and producers to rethink not just the end result, but the whole design process. Design, in my view, is never simply about, you know, nice forms. Design is about how you get there. Well, because if you look at those movements with a traditional design view, then it's remarkable how little visual design came out of that. Compare it with the student movements in the 1960s. Yeah. Well, you know, that resulted in France, for instance, Paris 68 resulted in Grapus, in a hugely influential, not just one group of graphic designers who engaged with the student movement, but meanwhile developed a new visual language that you know, has been used throughout the 1960s and 70s, and still is very strong. I have not seen anything like that, even the beginnings of it, in the student protests or the protests of Occupy of the last, say, the last couple of years. I find that amazing. But you could say, well, maybe you're looking in the wrong direction or in the wrong area. The student of May 68 did not have the enormous range of media that protesters have at their disposal now. So they had a necessity to really make the media that they could use stand out. With ubiquitous access to mobile mass distributed media, maybe, I'm speculating now, maybe that necessity to make a really striking form and to develop new visual languages to support that, maybe that need is not so big anymore. And maybe the design impulse, again, I'm surprising myself now, in line with what I just said, is on a more fundamental level, not the level of producing visual products, but the level of organization, the level of designing interactions, the level of making interfaces, things like that. I'm not sure.
No, but in this case, what's happening? Okay, if it's not about final results, which are influenced by these movements, but processes, because personally, I do not see them a lot. These processes which take place in design field, which are influenced by this. Some exceptions, of course, but not like some big changes. Do you know them?
Well, it's a problematic area because much of it is invisible in product terms. Look at what comes out of the new discipline of social design today. Well, social design doesn't produce chairs or tables or furniture or houses or, you know, actually social design rarely produces a product at all. Social design is actually not about designing from scratch. That's one of the problems there. It's very often about redesign. If you look, for instance, at the work of a Turkish-Dutch architect Ekim Tam, she is designing interfaces, literally game interfaces, which allow various stakeholders in big urban redevelopment processes, from the government and big business to the local grocer and just residents, to communicate with each other and to collaboratively and collectively develop plans for the redevelopment of this urban area. So there you see a very specific role for the designer as the designer of the interfaces that make it possible for others to act. So then the question becomes, that is the personal morality of designers. To what messages do you want to apply your skills? And in which context do you want to do that as, a personal activist, as this autonomous maverick that makes these beautiful, striking statements, or in a more modest way in helping provide the interfaces that give other people access to this whole network of community and help them boost their own effectivity. So that brings me back to your term, Commonomy. You said you understand it as a conflagration of common and autonomy.
Yeah.
My first impression was that it was a conflagration of two other very topical terms, commonality and economy. So a commonomy then means economy for all, and not just for the capitalist few. So commonomy to me means a redistribution of means, a redistribution of access, a redistribution of skills as well. In a sense, if designers help people do things themselves, then they're redistributing skills. If designers help by designing templates or designing interfaces, help other people to communicate more effectively, they're redistributing communication channels, etc. And that has been going on for quite a while. And it's not just the fact that the internet is there, that everybody can have their 15 minutes of fame. It still remains a problem and something of the utmost, I would say, cultural urgency, how to place these networks effectively in the hands of people who have traditionally had less or no access to these networks. So for me, that is a commonomy, an economy of means for the common good, something like that.
Well, if I kind of can sum up what I hear, it's like politicians and journalists who are also there to address problems or to kind of raise questions, solve them, but not on their own. Journalists will not start rebuilding something, and a politician will give an assignment to do that. But what I think is the power of a designer in this case, a designer, is that he can show, he can kind of see the the faults of a structure.
Well, designers can give proof of concept.
Yeah.
And if they propose something, and it's a tons of cross discipline knowledge at the same time. Yeah. They collaborate with economies. And
So that's your interpretation of konomy. That is the common autonomy. So it's not the autonomous designer that makes this beautiful standalone product.
It's related.
It's he or she is not just applying their talents and skills for the common good, but really working together with the decision makers, the reporters, the users, Martijn is a very good example of the last interpretation of konomy.
Yeah, but
he shares his autonomy and his independence with 16 million Dutch citizens. That was his idea.
Yeah.
He had, I think, 1.6 million euros as budget, or 160,000. What was it? Anyway, he ended up calculating that his project which was an art project for Dutch Parliament. The budget represented what is 1 cent or 10 cents per Dutch citizen. So his idea was basically to share his artistic autonomy in making this project with all 16 million Dutch citizens. So he gave them autonomy over 1/16 millionth part of his budget, basically.
Yeah.
And that triggered, and since that was not very practical, that triggered his idea of, okay, make this project a collective concept. Of course, I think it's a good example of Commonomy, of sharing autonomy.